Have you ever witnessed a man lose everything with a single signature? Not just his job, but his pride, his future, and the ability to feed his kids, then, with a straight face, be told to learn to code. Tonight we take you to Bald Knob, Arkansas, dubbed the pipeline capital of the world, where one man's raw, unfiltered story sparked a political wildfire. It didn't just trend, it cracked open the polished exterior of the Biden administration's so-called Green Revolution. This isn't about carbon, it's about betrayal. This isn't about climate, it's about class. By the time this episode ends, you'll understand why one anonymous welder's trembling, furious, deeply American voice is echoing through Congress. Trump heard it, MAGA is surging, and Biden, he's running out of places to hide. Stay with us, because what you're about to hear could be the testimony that blows the lid off the entire narrative. The video isn't slick, the camera shakes. It's local news, not a Netflix doc. The lighting is harsh, wind slices through the mic, and there he stands, an oil-stained Carhartt jacket, steel-cutting stare, the man the internet now calls the voice from Bald Knob. I looked that man dead in the eyes, he says, teeth clenched. I lost everything because of you. My job, my house, my health insurance, my kids don't even have shoes that fit. And you have the audacity to tell me to learn to code. He pauses, the silence hits like thunder. I don't wear a government badge. I don't write memos from an air-conditioned DC office. I weld, I build, I feed my family with these hands. That pipeline, that was our lifeline. His voice cracks, barely, just enough to remind you he's still human. I didn't just lose a job. I lost 20 years of dignity, and all I get in return, a slogan. By the time the clip hit X, formerly Twitter, it detonated. Not because it was polished. It wasn't. It was raw, grainy, imperfect, but honest. And in a world drowning in PR spin and AI empathy, truth still hits like a freight train. Alex Rosen retweeted it with 3 words, "This is war." Within hours it ripped through MAGA chat groups nationwide. Dan Bongino posted it. Mark Levin aired a full segment, and at Mar-a-Lago a certain president sat arms crossed, eyes locked on the screen. They shut down my livelihood, the welder growled. So don't ask me to code. Ask him what he's going to do about it. Cut to black. Then we're in the real situation room. Not the Pentagon, but Trump's comms war room. Big screens, low light, no fluff, just fire. Trump leans forward, eyes fixed on the final freeze frame. This is it, he says, voice low, resolute. This is what they're afraid to show. An American stripped of everything, told by ivory tower elites to risk skills like it's a TikTok challenge. Stephen Miller nods. Pam Bondi flips open a notepad. Trump doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't have to. They'll run sympathy pieces for IRS paper pushers whining about pensions. Meanwhile, this man can't afford dinner. Well, that's their mistake, because I'm giving him a mic, and I'm giving every forgotten worker a seat at the damn table. He turns to the team. We take this to Capitol Hill. Public hearings, lights, cameras, Biden in the chair, and we play that video, loud, silence. Bondi finally speaks. You're saying you want to put Biden's entire energy agenda on trial. Trump doesn't blink. No, I'm saying it's time America hears the voices they silenced in the name of climate fantasies and donor deals. Miller leans in. That clip doesn't just hit, it indicts. Trump leans back, a slight smile forming. This isn't about policy anymore. It's about cruelty dressed as progress. And this man, he's the witness we've all been waiting for. And just like that, it began not with a press release or a headline, but with a welder in Arkansas who said no to coding, no to being erased, and yes to lighting a fire that would not be put out. The left built their legacy on speeches and slogans, but they didn't see bald knob coming. And when they did, it was already too late. The clip didn't just go viral, it exploded. 28 million views in a week, translated subtitled, "Aw," remixed, blaring from trucker radios and reposted by dads who hadn't touched Facebook in years. But the real explosion, that happened underground, in DC, because when you strip away hashtags and outrage, you're left with something far more dangerous, real pain, real numbers, real evidence. And that's why, just 7 days later, deep inside the West Wing, behind sealed doors, Trump's inner circle and DOJ officials weren't spinning, they were planning. This wasn't PR, this was war prep. And Pam Bondi had one name on the subpoena, Joseph Robinette Biden. The door thudded shut behind them. Bondi didn't even sit. She dropped a binder on the table, rings snapping open like a loaded gun. "It started with a voice," she said. "But in this town, voices don't move policy. Data does." As America reeled from one man's fury, Washington was waking up. Faith leaders were forwarding the clip, trucking unions too. Even CNN had to admit, the video is striking, but Trump, he wasn't looking for headlines. A man had just lost everything. A nation had just remembered what betrayal feels like. And the press, already trying to dilute it, spin it, dull the edge. Not this time. 1 week later, a closed-door session, no cameras, no statements, just war planning. In that room, Trump, Bondi, Miller, one pot of coffee, and a mountain of paper so thick it could snap a table leg. 50,000 direct layoffs, Bondi said. Double that when you count supply chains, catering, hotels, entire towns. Conservative estimate, 120,000 lives frozen. Miller slid a red folder across the table. 3 states, Montana, North Dakota, Nebraska, already seeing double-digit unemployment. 2 of them voted for Biden. Trump scanned the numbers. They vote for energy independence and get NGO dependence instead. Bondi nodded. They didn't vote for unemployment lines. They voted for jobs. Then Trump read the quote aloud. "Anyone who can throw coal in a furnace can learn to program." He let it hang like poison in the air. That's a direct quote. Miller confirmed it. Televised discussion, 2021, archived. Trump shook his head, staring out the window. Calm outside, war inside. "They call me reckless," he muttered, "but I never told a man who bled for this country that he's obsolete. I never erased a town and called it progress." He turned back. "We opened the hearing. No sidestepping, no fluff. I want a federal proceeding, lights blazing, subpoenas flying." Joe Biden in that chair looking into the eyes of every American he told to learn to code. Pam nodded. "We'll build the case, economic impact, legal precedent, historical comparisons." Miller added, "Oh, and we make it public, raw, unfiltered, no edits." Trump nodded once, slowly. "Good, because I'm done watching bureaucrats cry over lost pensions while real Americans lose everything. Now it's our turn to hold the pen. Kind only comes before something irreversible." Trump lowered his voice, almost reflective. "Oh." "They shut down his pipeline," he said. "So now we'll reroute one of our own, straight through the heart of their narrative." And with that, the order was given. A hearing, a real one, federal, televised, ruthless. Biden would be called to account, not as a Democrat, not as a former president, but as the architect of an economic assault, wrapped in green slogans and elitist delusion. Because once a man has nothing left to lose, his voice becomes dangerous. But when that voice echoes through the halls of Congress, it becomes history. And this administration, this MAGA presidency, reborn, was about to carve a new chapter into the American ledger. Truth, televised, pain, recorded, accountability, summoned. Coming up next, the left tries to rewrite the battlefield. Cue the violins, cue the 60 Minutes tears, and IRS agents clutching pink slips like war medals. But this time, nobody's buying it. Not after Bald Knob, not after Trump's war room went live, not when the working class finally had a president who didn't just tweet for them, fought for them. Stay with us. The left's sympathy tour is about to hit a wall, and it's built of steel, welded by truth, aimed straight at DC. The machine moved faster than they expected. Within 48 hours of green-lighting the federal hearing, newsrooms from DC to Manhattan caught the scent, not of justice, but of damage control, not Biden's blood. Of course, that wouldn't fit the script. They needed something softer, sadder, more palatable, and conveniently, they had the perfect cast. A dozen teary-eyed bureaucrats trembling in front of sympathetic cameras, backed by sad piano chords, and lighting fit for a documentary on endangered whales. Pam Bondi saw the teaser while boarding a flight. Stephen Miller spit out his coffee, watching it over lunch. Trump, he didn't need more than 5 seconds. They're doing it, he muttered. They're really gonna do it. They're really gonna do it. The title card, Fired but Forgotten, inside the human toll of Trump's purge. It aired in 60 Minutes primetime, right between an ad for restless leg syndrome and a promo for the Oscars. Cut to softly lit studio. Enter the victim of the week, a mid-level IRS specialist from Arlington, Virginia. Gray cardigan, reading glasses, a face that screams mandatory compliance seminar. I just wanted to serve my country, she whispered, voice quivering. Now I've lost my pension, my office, my friends, everything. B-roll, she waters a houseplant. She sits with her cat. She stares out a window like she's watching democracy dissolve in real time. The voiceover lays it on thick. After 2 decades of service, she was dismissed with a single notice. Now she spends her mornings searching for jobs and her afternoons adjusting to life without purpose. Cut to Congresswoman Linda Sanchez, blinking slowly at the camera like it owed her an apology. This wasn't restructuring, she said, voice trembling with perfectly calibrated outrage. This was political punishment, a mass firing of good people, and it's unforgivable. Social media lit up for an hour. #justice for public servants, #stop the purge. Then a cat playing banjo overtook the feed. But in Trump's war room, they were already locked and loaded. Pam Bondi stormed in, laptop wide open. Fired IRS lady? You've got to be kidding me. Stephen Miller was ahead of her. He already had the Bald Knob clip pulled up, raw, uncut, including the moment where the pipeline worker chokes on the words, "My whole family's unemployed." They synced the videos side by side. On one screen, a bureaucrat mourning her pension and overpriced lattes. On the other, a welder telling his kids dinner wasn't coming. Trump didn't say much. He didn't have to. He just pointed and said, "Put this side by side."
Everywhere.
That night, the Trump team released the edit, the caption, "She lost her pension. He lost his future. Decide who you cry for." 18 million views in 9 hours. Don Jr. retweeted, "Some people lose jobs, others lose hope. Guess which one Biden fired?" Then came the backlash. CNN called it manipulative. MSNBC said it was cruel. Fact-checkers scrambled, which only made it spread faster. And that's when Trump made his next move, blunt, raw, and perfectly stage-managed. He called a press meeting, unscripted by design. "They want tears for the IRS," he said.
Blue, fine.
"I've got tears too." Pause. Tears for the man in Bald Knob, who lost his job, his house, his health insurance, and didn't cry for a pension. He cried because he couldn't buy milk. And Joe Biden gave him a slogan, silence. Then next week, "I'm going to Texas." The energy heart of this country, the place Joe Biden forgot. He smirked. No violins. Reporters rushed out of the press room like it was on fire. The headline wrote itself, Trump to speak in Texas, after IRS sympathy segment. Sparks outrage. But this wasn't outrage. This was a realignment. The media circus had collided head-on with a working-class revolt. Trump was already heading south, toward the oil rigs, the job sites, the men who didn't own Twitter accounts but could lay pipe better than half of Capitol Hill could lay bricks. The sympathy tour was over. Next stop, the truth tour, and Texas was about to be ground zero. His eyes scanned the stage like he was searching for the back door of a nursing home. And in that frozen moment, every rumor, every whisper about the stairs, the stiffness, the mechanical pauses came crashing to the front. He didn't look like a president. He looked like an expired prototype, a political marionette whose strings had frayed years ago. One worker near the front muttered, "Damn, the left really did build a robot." Another added, "Yeah, just forgot to install the empathy chip." Biden was quietly helped off stage without saying a word, but the silence was louder than anything he could have said. The crowd saw it, America saw it, and Trump, he saw a checkmate in real time. Later that night on the tarmac, Trump couldn't help himself. He launched into a mockery, mimicking Biden's stiff gait and vacant expression. So he shows up, does his best Alexa impression. "Sorry, I didn't quite get that." A few reporters laughed. Trump leaned in. If that's their version of leadership, someone better find the reset button before the hearing starts. Because now, after Bald Knob, after the IRS docudrama, after Texas, Biden couldn't duck the subpoena. Not anymore. Not after showing his face, whatever that was. The reckoning was locked in, televised, public, unavoidable. The Senate chamber was electric, not just packed, pressurized. Senators, staffers, steel workers in worn jeans and oil-streaked boots, cameras angled from every wall. The seal of the United States Senate loomed like a final verdict over everything. At the center, two microphones. One for the man who came to burn down the pretense of civility. One for the man who once promised to build back better and buried thousands of jobs under executive ink. The chairman cleared his throat. We now open this session of the Senate Energy Committee. The subject, the economic and human impact of the Keystone XL pipeline cancellation. Then came the call. The chair recognizes President Donald J. Trump. Trump stood, no notes, no script, just fury, precision, and the weight of every forgotten voice behind him. "Thank you, Mr. Chairman," he began. "I'm here today because a lot of people out there can't be. They're not sitting in air-conditioned hearing rooms. They're trying to fix broken trucks, keep the power on, explain to their kids why dinner is just bread again." Silence. Not a shuffle. Not a breath. The whole room locked on. I've seen the headlines, the sob stories, the violins for bureaucrats who've spent 20 years doing paperwork no one asked for. But no one cried for the guys in steel-toe boots tossed out like garbage. Then he turned, eyes locking on the empty witness seat across from him. "So today, I want to ask someone else to the stand. The man who killed their jobs, the man who told welders to become coders, the man who signed away their futures and called it progress." The clerk's voice cut in. Now recognizing former President Joseph R. Biden, the room held its breath. Old Biden entered slow, stiff, less like a man summoned to answer, more like one wheeled in as an exhibit. His gait was measured but unnatural. Aides hovered behind him like technicians shadowing a malfunctioning drone. He took the seat, blinked twice, scanned the room like he'd just forgotten his line. Trump didn't blink, didn't smile. He leaned in, voice steady, tone ice cold. "Mr. Biden, this isn't campaign season. This isn't a debate with moderators to bail you out. This is under oath. And today, you're not Uncle Joe. You're the architect of a disaster." The press box stirred. Cameras zoomed. "You didn't just cancel a pipeline. You canceled lives. And then you told the men who built this country to learn to code and get over it. He gestured to a row of hard-faced men behind him. They didn't get severance. They got silence. They're here now, and so are we. So let's get to it. The chairman gave a nod. The hearing began. Biden shifted slowly, cleared his throat, and leaned forward with the practiced patience of a man who survived scandals by riding the clock. I hear a lot of outrage, a lot of shouting. But let's not pretend this is about working Americans. He pointed gently across the aisle. You fired thousands of federal workers. No hearings, no explanations, just pink slips and press releases. All civil servants, veterans, people who gave decades to this government, not pipeliners, sure, but people who built the structure you claim to represent. He let it sit, then delivered the pivot. Yes. He canceled Keystone. Yes. He did it to protect the planet your grandkids will grow up on. You fired payroll departments because they didn't clap loud enough at your rallies. Biden spread his hands slowly, trying to look calm. So before you blame me for this economic tragedy, maybe ask yourself if you're upset for the workers or just mad they don't work for you anymore. A ripple went through the room. Reporters scribbled. Democrats nodded. The pushback had landed. The pushback had landed. But across the table, Trump didn't even flinch. You got proof, Joe, he said, voice low. You're up here wagging your finger like you're auditioning for the West Wing. But show me the devastation. Show me the soup lines. Show me the IRS agent under a bridge with a cardboard sign. He leaned in, not loud, but lethal. Oh, you can't, because they don't exist. He sat up straighter. I didn't fire civil servants. I removed saboteurs. I didn't kill jobs. I dismantled leverage, the kind you and your donors used to twist the spine of this country. The room shifted. Even senators felt the tilt. You talk about oversight? These were the same people who let billions disappear into foreign aid scams while Americans begged for help during a lockdown. The same ones who investigated parents at school boards but missed fentanyl flooding across the border. He looked down, then up. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. Trump leaned into the mic one last time. You signed a piece of paper and called it progress. But these men, he pointed again behind him. They lost everything. Not a pension, not a title. Everything. And you didn't blink. Trump's eyes narrowed. His voice dropped colder now. Deliberate. You want to talk theory, Joe. Alberstrack numbers, pretty speeches. He stepped forward, tone tightening like a vice. Fine. Let's leave the ivory tower for a minute. Tet. Let's leave the ivory tower for a minute. He pointed to the gallery, not as a gesture, but like pulling a trigger. I'm not going to preach. I'm going to let you hear it from someone who lived it. Not a memo.
Not a poll.
Flesh and blood, boots and bills. He turned to the chairman, voice cutting like steel. Call the witness. The doors opened.
Neil Crabtree walked in.
Calloused hands folded in front of him.
Shirt tucked.
Shoulders squared. Not for show. Because where he's from, pride's the last thing they haven't taken. He stood at the witness table, cleared his throat once, then spoke, not loud but solid. Every word landed like a hammer. My name's Neil Crabtree. I'm from Arkansas. I'm a pipeline welder. He paused, eyes scanned the room. Found Biden, or at least I used to be. No hesitation now, just years of grit forged into sentences. I woke up at 4 a.m. every day to weld steel into the earth, to keep this country moving, and then one day it all stopped. One signature. From that man right there. He nodded toward Biden. The silence that followed could have cracked marble. You told us to learn to code, that if we could throw coal into a furnace, we could write JavaScript. He raised his hands, scarred, knuckles worn. These hands built your grid. These hands paid taxes, so DC could build another conference room. These hands held my son when I told him we couldn't go to the doctor anymore. Because I lost my job. I lost my insurance. I lost everything. He pulled a photo from his pocket, old, folded, handled like scripture. This is my family. We didn't just lose work. We lost normal, peace, security. His voice dropped a half step, not in weakness, but in weight. I looked for the green jobs you promised. They weren't there. You said they were coming. He paused. I say all I found was wind. He let it breathe, let the words sting. You told me to code, he said quietly. I don't even know how to open a laptop, but I know how to weld under pressure. I know how to keep a pipeline stable in a North Dakota ice storm. I know how to keep America running. Another beat. I'm not asking for pity. I'm asking for truth. His voice hardened, now tempered steel. I didn't get laid off because I was useless. I got cut loose because I don't work in a think tank, because I don't host fundraisers in Delaware. Then he looked Biden dead in the eye. No anger, just gravity. While the media cried for IRS agents who lost their DC parking spots, my son looked at me and asked, Dad, when do we get to eat breakfast like we used to? Biden dropped his gaze. A few senators shifted. Crabtree didn't blink. I'm not a data point in your unemployment memo. I'm an American. So let me ask you something, face to face. He stepped back, but his stare never broke. Did you ever meet a worker before you signed away his future? Did you ever walk through Bald Knob and look my wife in the eye? He returned to his seat. No clapping, no whispers, just silence, the kind that hits like iron on concrete. The chairman finally spoke, flat, hollow. Mr. Biden, do you have a response? Biden gripped the arms of his chair too tightly. He exhaled long, slow, then rose stiff. His voice was worn, like a threadbare coat in the wind. First of all, I want to say I'm deeply sorry for what Mr. Crabtree and his family went through. No parent should have to watch their kids go hungry or lose access to care. He looked around the room for an ally. There were none. I didn't sign that order to hurt anyone. I signed it because I believed, and still believe, that transitioning to clean energy is necessary for our future, for the planet. He paused, unsure if continuing helped, but pushed forward anyway. I believed better jobs would come. And maybe, we underestimated how long that would take. He looked down, not by choice, just not fast enough. Then his eyes lifted, not to Crabtree, but to Trump. Mr. President, I know you'll seize this moment, and maybe you're right. Maybe we didn't see clearly enough. But don't turn this man's pain into a campaign trailer. He lowered his voice. I didn't abandon American workers, but I admit, we didn't move fast enough. We didn't look close enough. And if there's anything left to do, it's to try and fix what we got wrong. He sat, no applause, no reaction, just that strange suffocating quiet that happens when truth and failure breathe the same air. The chairman nodded. Trump stood, no adjustment to his tie, no glance at notes, no look toward the cameras, just a man staring down the only other one in the room who still mattered, and knowing one of them had just run out of time. His voice was low, steady, surgical. I didn't come here to lecture. He motioned toward Crabtree, who was now silent, hands folded again. I came here because of him. Because your system labeled him collateral damage. Trump took a step forward, centered himself like he belonged there. Neil didn't ask for anyone's resignation. He didn't demand a payout. He just wanted to work. And your government told him to smile, shut up, and learn to code. He let the silence breathe. I heard you say no child should go hungry. Trump leaned in. Well, Mr. Biden, they're hungry because of your signature, not a stir in the chamber. You say you didn't abandon the working class. Maybe not, but you never looked them in the eye. You signed that order in the morning and by lunch you were shaking hands with wind lobbyists in Delaware. He let that hang. You promised green jobs. They got pink slips. Now he stood fully behind the mic. No script, no spin, just steel. Americans don't need apologies. They don't need poetry. They need jobs. They need heat in the winter. They need leaders, not excuses. And the silence that followed, it wasn't empty, it was judgment.